I've fallen in love with the community. I've fallen in love with the theater, its patrons. The idea to have a chance to start from scratch in a new house was so enticing to be a part of, and I think with the plans of how we want to use this new facility, it's going to be amazing when it opens the doors.
From NCPR, welcome to Northwards. People, ideas, and conversations from and about Northern New York, Vermont, and beyond. I'm Mitch Teich.
Support for the Northwards podcast comes from the J.C. Steiniger and M.E. McDonald Charitable Fund at Adirondack Foundation, in support of the Adirondack Foundation, building stronger Adirondack communities.
Is my microphone on this time?
It is on this time.
And what happens if I talk into it like this? Does it record the sound of my voice?
It's doing what I want it to do.
Are the needles going up and down?
It's illegal for you to ask me that.
Like a vaccine clinic on a trampoline?
Let's not get political.
Ethan, are you in the studio with us now?
I'm here, Mitch.
That's Ethan
Loud and
Shanty.
clear.
Ethan Shanty is our producer here on Northwards, and he joins us in the studio. And he was not with me on this recording, but I think he has something to say about the significance of what I did while I was on this recording. So today we're going to spend a little time talking about Pendragon Theater, which is a theater and theater company in Saranac Lake, New York.
If you're listening to this,
You probably are listening.
You are listening to this.
If you're listening to this,
you're definitely listening to this.
Radio.
A lot of our audience is familiar with Pendragon Theater. That's what I was going to say.
Anyway, Pendragon Theater, they're in this old building. It at one point was an auto garage.
Yeah.
It's kind of off the beaten path in Saranac Lake, and they're building a new theater, a new really spiffy theater. And Ethan, you were building not that long ago, but you were building with Legos, were you not?
Okay, this is not what I thought you were going to talk about.
Not what you were going to talk about? Well,
no.
Too bad.
Yes, I was.
What did you build out of Legos, Ethan?
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I was headed to one of the concerts that I run at the Arts Council in Potsdam, and I noticed this big box leaning against my front door, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" Because I hadn't heard the UPS driver or whoever knock, and so I was like, "Well, it's probably for my girlfriend Erin," and I pick it up and it says Ethan Shanty, and I was like,
"Oh my God, Ethan Shanty! I know Ethan Shanty. That's me.
He lives here." And I was like, I didn't order anything, but I was really curious. I was kind of running late to the show,
but never too late to open a box.
Well, right, and running late for me is like 30 minutes early. And so I tear it open and I see there is a Lego set of the Simpsons living room, and I was like, what the hell? And I open up this other box that's inside, and it's a Lego Krusty Burger, and I was like, what in the hell? It's like a 1,300 piece Lego set. So I called Erin. Quoi? And stop. I called Erin and I was like, did you buy me Legos? Which would be really weird because they're very expensive, and when was the last time I had a Lego set? I've never mentioned wanting one to her. Anyway, it turns out that my old friend Sean, who I went to college with, who now lives in North Carolina, we don't get to see each other very often. Obviously, he's in North Carolina and I am not. He just saw an ad for it one day and he was like, I know Ethan is kind of obsessed with The Simpsons, having two Simpsons tattoos.
Are you now?
Good mole man to you. So it was a nice surprise. It was very difficult to resist the urge to cancel the show completely and just start putting together Legos. And what made it even worse is that it was a beautiful weekend, so I had to force myself to leave the house because I knew that if I started building the Lego set while the sun was up, I would just sit there and waste the entire day. So yeah, this gigantic 1,300 piece, very intricate Krusty Burger with all the little minifigures you would want. There's a ball pit in it for kids. It's a Krusty Burger, so it's a restaurant for the whole family. So there's a ball pit and there's a bathroom, and the toilet in the bathroom has got a leak under. It's so detailed. It's wild. So that was the first time I've built a Lego set since I was maybe 15. And part of that is because, I had other interests like music and girls, and another part of it.
And if you were building Legos all the time, the girls part would definitely have been out the window.
Probably. But another part of it is that they're very expensive. And
It's a nice gift that your friend got you.
it is a very nice gift. And it kind of makes me think that maybe I'm done with music and I should just start collecting Lego. But I don't know. I don't have room for it. I might be bringing it into the station to store because an important distinction between the radio station and my home, and this is true, there are no cats here.
Right. Sometimes there are dogs, but
Sometimes there are dogs, but they're pretty well behaved.
yeah, a dog in a Lego set would mostly consist of sniffing.
Yes. Anyway, so that was fun. And
yeah,
you're a
and-
fan of The Simpsons also, which is why I was excited to share it with you.
I am a fan of The Simpsons as well. I'm also old enough to remember when Lego sets were just a box of random Legos.
Right, and they were all blocks.
They were all blocks, and some of them were the really thin ones that you had to try to pry off of the base with your thumbnail.
Oh my God! So I was excited to learn that they have a new
There's
pry
a tool
bar
for that, right? Yeah.
And I put stuff together wrong just to use it because I never had the chance when I was a kid.
Well, so where do you come down on the, like, this is a set and it's supposed to look like a certain thing versus here's a box of Legos and I'm going to build whatever the hell I want?
Certainly when I was a kid and I didn't have the instruction manual, I was just building whatever the hell I wanted. But now that I'm an
I
adult,
built a lot of really crappy cars.
sure, I bet.
Like, look, Lego wheels.
Right, and I made this Lego windshield, but it's really just
A clear block. Right.
Yeah. I'm creative and inventive in a lot of other ways, but when I have a Simpsons Lego set in front of me, I'm going to build it the way the instructions say.
So there's no way to, like, hack the Simpsons Lego set and turn it into, like, a Family Guy Lego set.
You could. I think you'd have to repaint the figures, but you could do it, I think.
So I bring this up because, of course, this is exactly what the people at Pendragon Theater are doing.
They're building with Legos?
Well, they're building, and at the same time, they are not building a Krusty Burger. And they're not using Legos, so maybe I shouldn't have brought it up. But they are building a new theater, and they're building this new theater out of a former A&P grocery store.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which
Yeah.
many of our listeners, if they are at all familiar with the Saranac Lake of yore, will remember because it is across the street, the side street from Norrie's, which
Yeah.
a lot of our listeners probably are familiar
Definitely.
with because Norrie's is the kind of place where you walk in if you're in public radio.
And everybody knows your name.
That's exactly right.
We're spending too much time together. The fact that I knew that's what you were going to say.
Anyway, there used to be this A&P grocery store across the street from it. However, it wasn't quite right. So we were talking about this. The current space was
It's an auto garage.
It's an auto garage.
So
and
they have a
kinda-
history of building in not quite the right space.
Right. But in this case, they had a chance to build something that really would represent their future. So they're using the A&P and they're building not with Legos but with actual construction materials
Like lumber.
like
Nails.
lumber and cinder blocks and nails exactly. Funny they actually use one of those little tools though that comes
One of the
in
Lego
sets.
tools?
Yeah, exactly.
Keeps the budget down.
Right.
Well,
So they're building this beautiful
Yeah.
new theater
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
supposed to open in time for next season. And so I had a chance to chat with Mike Aguirre, who runs the Pendragon Theater, and a couple of the folks also at the construction site. And so they're going to be in this building that is both a new theater space and also partly an old A&P.
And all of the residents are going to say, oh, I'm going to go see a play at the old A&P instead of Pendragon.
Exactly.
Which is what I would do.
Which gets back to the old joke that my grandfather used to tell me. He was from Boston, and so you may know there's a grocery chain in the Boston area called Stop and Shop.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, so Stop and Shop or Stop and Shop, and his joke always was that A&P was going to merge with Stop and Shop, and they were going to rename it Stop and P. With that in mind, let's go to the old theater space, the Brandy Brook space, which is going into its last year, where I had a chance to sit down with Mike Aguirre.
We are calling this our final summer at Brandy Brook. So our 15 Brandy Brook home, this has served Pendragon as its theater facility for close to 30 years now. I think the original Pendragon production, the founding production, took place in a second floor loft on Main Street before a lot of excitement picked up for Pendragon. They renovated, moved into this former auto garage at 15 Brandy, Brook. It's gone through a lot of changes over the years. It's been a wonderfully charming space. It's been a wonderful space to house our productions. There are so many things that we need to repair and do to renovate the building that we've been fortunate over the last 10 years, been in the process of building a new facility. But for now, this is our final summer here at Brandy Brook.
Let me call you out on one adjective you used there, and that was the word charming, which is a word you sometimes see in real estate to describe a fixer-upper, a house that you need to do something with to take it beyond. I mean, how do you describe this building, which was never built to hold a theater?
Well, that's a good way of putting it. It was never, of course, intended to have a theater. The amazing thing about this current facility is how many community members it took and it has taken to actually build and maintain the Pendragon spirit, the productions. The one thing we've encountered is as Pendragon has grown over the last 40 some odd years, the work that we're doing, the artistic work, the educational work, the community outreach work, has outgrown this facility. So while it has so many great memories and great charm to it, Pendragon is in desperate need of a new facility and also a new footprint. We're moving downtown as part of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. We're off the beaten path here. We want more foot traffic. We want it to generate people coming downtown into the village, going to restaurants, going to dinner, having drinks, and having Pendragon as a part of that evening too.
Yeah, so maybe this is an important question to ask. Why is it so important for Saranac Lake to have a vibrant live theater scene?
That's a great question. The arts are such a huge driver for maintaining full-time residents, working with our education system in the community, and also getting tourist foot traffic into the area. Again, there are a lot of studies, too, that show when someone is coming to an arts facility or an arts center, they're also spending money elsewhere. They're maybe staying at a hotel for the weekend. They're going to the brewery. There's a new brewery that just came up. They're going to a restaurant or a coffee shop. They are also partaking in spending money and contributing to that whole community area. I remember talking to a family that had just moved up here, and we were asking them why'd they pick Saranac Lake. And they said, we were looking for two qualities. We were looking to make sure that Saranac Lake had a hardware store and had an arts center. They matched on equal level. They wanted to make sure they could repair their home, keep their water running, and also they wanted to make sure that there was something to do. There was something for their kids. There was entertainment at night. There was vibrancy. There was culture that just generates activity and the economy, too, in the village or a place like this. The theater and the community and the patrons, they deserve a new facility, and they deserve another 50 years of life.
What attracted you to this position 5 years ago?
We were coming out of the tail end of the pandemic. There was an idea to build a new facility for Pendragon. And for obvious reasons, the fundraising, things had come to a skidding halt. It was hard to suddenly convince people. Before the pandemic, fundraising, and there was a tremendous amount of momentum for this new facility. 2020 hit, everything shut down. Theaters, arts organizations were forced to shut their doors too. And so there was need for kickstarting the building of this new facility. There was the idea to have a say in how this facility would act, to put a vision towards it. And that was really enticing. I've fallen in love with the community. I've fallen in love with the theater, its patrons. The idea to have a chance to start from scratch in a new house was so enticing to be a part of. And I think with the plans of how we want to use this new facility, it's going to be amazing when it opens the doors.
And we were saying this as you kind of took me backstage a little bit, of which there is not much backstage in this building, that there is a certain beauty in the North Country ethos of making do with what you have. And you really have put this building, you've sort of taken it to its limits.
Over the years, we have used every single inch of space that we could possibly use. Again, there's no separate dressing rooms. You'll kind of hold up a curtain when people need to do some extra changing. There's no office space. My office is used as wing space for entrances and exits. There's little shop space. The electricity is hard to get running hot water from time to time. The toilets freeze in the winter, regardless of how much you crank the heat. There are a consistent infestation of raccoons that find their way into the attic and wave to all of our wonderful patrons every summer. There are so many limitations, and yes, there is a wonderful ethos of you make do with what you have. We just also believe that after 44 years of that, Pendragon and its patrons, its artists, deserve one more step forward, again, to make sure the theater is around for another 40 years.
So before we go over and take a look at the new theater in progress, let's talk about what's happening on the stage in this building this summer. 4 productions.
We have a very exciting final slate of productions for this summer. At the end of June, we have the North Country premiere of a contemporary musical called The Lion. It is a beautiful, funny, heartbreaking musical. It's about the author's exploration of a turbulent relationship with his father while also confronting a cancer diagnosis. It sounds bleak, but it's a wonderfully lighthearted. It has great music. There are only 3 musicians and actors that the playwright has granted permission to actually act in this production. We are able to bring in one of those 3. His name is Jake Allen, a wonderful actor and musician. So we're thrilled to have him on stage for The Lion starting June 24th. The next up is our Camp Pendragon production. Camp Pendragon features about 20 local youth, wildly talented local youth, and we give them a professional experience. We bring in professional artists and directors to design for them, to direct them, to stage manage for them. They're putting on a new adaptation of Treasure Island. This program has grown over the years, but also we treat them like adults. We treat them as professionals, and they are a part of our main stage season. It's been a while since we've also done a Shakespeare. We're putting on a new adaptation of Twelfth Night, is featuring the music of Blessed Dirt, who are a very popular favorite local folk band. It's set today in the Adirondacks with this folk music. We have a tremendous cast coming in for Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. That'll be at the end of July.
With Shakespearean dialogue still.
Shakespearean dialogue mixed with a little colloquialism, mixed with some folk type music. It's going to be a really fun production as well, staying true to the text while also bringing it into modern day Adirondacks. And then our final production is a new play called This Is Government. It is by Nina Kissinger, and the last 3 years we have premiered 3 productions that have also moved off Broadway to 59 East 59 theaters in Manhattan, which is really exciting for us. So it starts here at the end of August. This production is about the playwright's experiences working on Capitol Hill as a lowly intern. It is very funny. It's a bit relevant to today. It's about the function and sometimes dysfunction of the U.S. government. And it's a great experience because we're giving North Country patrons a chance to see a brand new play. They are a see it here first audience before it's seen anywhere else in the country. We pack that up at the end of August and we move it right off Broadway in September. And it's also a chance to showcase what Pendragon does on a large stage in Manhattan.
And maybe this is a better question for Nina Kissinger, but is there a need to kind of work out the kinks as well in a place that's, I don't want to say it's less demanding because that's an insult to the North Country, but with a little, without New York theater audience looking over her shoulder?
Absolutely. It's a wonderful opportunity. You get the playwright in the room. You get to spend quality time with the writer. They get to spend beautiful days in the Adirondacks. They're seeing their work on stage. They have a chance to write, to rewrite, to work out some of the kinks. And yeah, it's a bit of a preview process up here because I'll say our audiences are really smart audiences. And our audiences are theater-going, art-centric audiences. And they're a great gauge and a test when we put that show on here first of what works, what doesn't work, and what might need to be changed before it goes on in front of a New York City audience.
What do you think Pendragon gets out of the deal here of having things go from here to there? Is there something that, either metaphorically or literally comes back in return?
I think so, and that's the idea. We want something to come back in return for this. A leading national theater has some type of presence in New York City. New York City is the central hub of the Western world, of the English language theater world. There are wonderful companies from California to Chicago to Houston to the East Coast that a leading theater is producing new plays, and also they are bringing these plays to a wider audience. And it's not just a local audience, it's a national and international tourist audience. Pendragon gets to have its name up on the marquee, and we want people to be able to say, who is Pendragon? And they look and they say, where's the Adirondack? So it's here. And where is Saranac Lake? It's here. Maybe I'm going to come visit and actually see a show there too, just as they do for maybe a Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago, LA Theater. We want people to see our name and also come venture up here and see what we're up to.
All right, well, let's go over to the new place and see what you're up to there.
That sounds great. Thanks.
That's Mike Aguirre. He runs the Pendragon Theater. We were talking at the current site of Pendragon, and then we hopped into our cars and drove across town in Saranac Lake to where the new Pendragon Theater is going up. I talked again to Mike Aguirre, but first to Harry Gordon and also Holly Wolf, who is a longtime supporter and board member for the Pendragon.
My name's Harry Gordon. My responsibility on this project is to be the owner's representative for Pendragon Theater. That means that I'm an architect myself, but I'm not the architect for this project. Instead, my job is to coordinate among the architect, the construction manager, and the owner. So when issues arise, it's my responsibility to try to find the best solution and to make sure that that is put into place.
And the idea is you're approaching this with an architect sensibility, so you know what might be possible, and you're almost like a translator, if you will.
In a certain way, yes. And I've been doing this for 5 decades, so I have a little bit of experience in doing these kinds of projects.
All right, so give us a little orientation. Where are we, and what are we looking at?
So, Mitch, this building has started out as a A&P grocery store about 50-some years ago. And so when we took it over, we first evaluated whether we could use the building as a theater. We concluded that while it would support many things in the back of house, it wasn't going to be effective as a theater for 2 reasons. One is that the column spacing wouldn't permit good seating, and 2 is that it wasn't tall enough to be able to put on a real production. So that led us to the design approach of taking everything that was in the existing building and using that as sort of back of house. So we have dressing rooms, we have a green room, we have a scene shop, we have a costume shop, rehearsal space, and administrative offices, all tucked neatly into the existing building, 10,000 square feet. And then a 5,500 square foot addition designed specifically for the theater. So you'll come into the lobby, that's the space that you can see just over there, that where we'll welcome people to the building. It'll also be an art exhibit area. We've designed this so that local artists will be able to exhibit their work there, and people will come by to see. And from the lobby space, people will come into the theater, and the theater has about 120 fixed seats, and we also have the ability to put some movable seats as well. We have a very adequate, more than adequate stage, and all of the lighting and so forth that's necessary to be able to put on real productions. And then a really important thing is that in the existing building, there's no extra space. So when Mike has a production going on, there's no place to rehearse the next production. and that means that they have to have a sort of timeout in between productions. But in the new building, we'll have a rehearsal space where you can set it up as a stage exactly the same size as the regular stage. So while one play is going on that Mike and Sarah are producing, they can be planning and rehearsing for the next play that's coming. This is going to mean a lot more activity and the ability to put on more productions.
The thing that really kind of strikes me, Mike and I were talking out in front of the existing space just a few minutes ago and talking about how the existing space kind of takes on that North Country feeling of making do with what you have. What you're doing here is a little of both. You're making good use of an existing building, and you're putting your own stamp on it so that you're able to kind of maximize the footprint of the space.
That's a really good point, Mitch. And the other thing that I think, in the existing building, there were some elements that we really wanted to carry over, if you like. So one of the things that you might have noticed if you visited is that there is a porch that wraps around the existing building. That porch is very important culturally. People enjoy using that space during intermissions and before and after the shows. So when we talked to our architects about what do we need, we said we need a porch. We have to have a porch that wraps around the front of the building. And there is a great porch that will be designed, a lot of room for people to sit and enjoy things before and after the show.
What we're doing with the new building is putting the same quality that's on the stage as the frame for what's on the stage. So,
that's a really important distinction. It's time that the building is of the same quality as what people are there to see.
Exactly. And they've earned it. They're award-winning and keep being award-winning, and they have won some very prestigious the artistic team has won some very prestigious national awards. So they deserve it. They deserve the quality of stage that reflects what they do.
Well, and I actually, as long as we're on the subject, I asked Mike this question, and I think it's important to get a context from others. Why is it important for Saranac Lake to have a vibrant live theater scene? The town has 7,000 or 8,000 people.
Actually, not even 5,000 permanent residents, but it's called creative placemaking. And what you find is something that the survey showed something like 40% of the people live here in part because of the artistic nature of it. So there's a great deal of benefit from a personal satisfaction. There's a great deal of benefit from people. We need right now people getting together around things that show what they have in common. It's also a very significant economic benefit, and the fact that it's downtown, it's a walkable amenity, which is something that the village has really been trying to promote, and it's really the capstone of the economic development of this area. I think the statistic is that people that come to theater spend an average of $40 more than the cost of the ticket in the community. That's what you need. You're bringing people into restaurants and retail at the same time as you're helping the entire community heal.
After having been in that building for 30 plus years and following the effort to get this project underway that's gone on for years as well, what does it mean to be standing on the sidewalk in front of a building that is going up literally as we speak?
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing they had to do was dig down to get stable soil. It wasn't contaminated soil. It just wasn't stable enough to build the new building. And when they brought it back up, so it was level, but you could see the outline of the theater and the lobby. I can't tell you how excited I was. I was surprised at myself. I've been seeing that on paper for 10 years, and here it is. And when you go in and see it, you're going to look out from the view of the stage to where the seating is. And you saw the seating in the old facility. There were people who wouldn't come to the theater because of the quality of the seating. It's too bad for them because they missed a great deal, but there are those who did that. And I am so excited because I've known for so long what this means to Saranac Lake and what it means to the theater and how it improves the sustainability of the theater and other community partners. You can go on and on in terms of the value, both social as well as economic.
Mike, this has been part of the dream since the moment you walked in the door at Pendragon. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we're standing in front of what will be a living, breathing space.
It's surreal, it's exciting, it's nerve-wracking. Everybody on this team wants to get this project right and has worked for years longer than I've even been here. But also, too, like what Holly and Harry have talked about, we're not just building a theater. It's a tool and it's a resource for the community. It's a tool for our artists, and it's a resource. We want other companies, we want other organizations, other artists to be able to use this space. It's something we haven't necessarily been able to do at our current facility. So it's also a dream to have a gift for the community, too.
Harry, you've been doing things like this for, as you say, 5 decades. Does it ever get old seeing a project that you envision on paper turn into something physical?
You know, one of the magic of being an architect is that you envision something in your head, and then over time you begin to see it become a reality. And the excitement of that never leaves me. And so every day when I come to the construction site, there's something new going on, and you can begin to see the building taking shape. And while I could imagine it in my head when it was just on paper, now that you see the spaces, you see the flow from one space to another, you can see how successful it's going to be as a theater. The other interesting point, I think, Mitch, is that, as you said, it's an old A&P, and frankly, old A&Ps weren't built terribly well. And so we found a number of challenges that we couldn't have identified before we began construction. And I really want to speak to the quality of teamwork among the architects, JMZ, and the construction manager, MLB, and Pendragon. When a problem arose, we worked on it together, and we found the most effective solution. Nobody was saying that we have to do it only one way. People were looking for a cooperative solution, and many times it was our contractor who said, well, I've done this before. If we were able to solve the problem this way, I think it would be the most cost-effective way to do it.
Can you give us an example of some of the unexpected things that you found as you sort of unearthed an old A&P?
I can. We're standing at the foot of a hill. Water flows down that hill, and it wants to go to the river, which is just on the other side of the street. Over the 50 or so years that it was an A&P, water would accumulate against that side of the building, and it wouldn't really be able to go anywhere. And what we found when we started construction is that the portion of that wall that was below grade, the block had disintegrated. It was so badly deteriorated that it was no longer structural. And so what can we do? It was a bearing wall. We have to be able to take the weight off the wall in order to repair the part that was damaged at the bottom. And the contractor and the structural engineer came up with a very creative solution to support the upper wall and allow the masons to be able to replace the bad block at the bottom, working in 12-foot sections all along a 120-foot wall. It was a very creative solution, and I haven't seen it done before, frankly. I've done a lot of stuff, but haven't seen that done before. It's a good example of the kind of challenges we faced and the kind of teamwork we used to be able to solve those challenges.
And at the end of the day, you still have to get the water around the building to get to the river now.
Yes, we do, but now we have pipes that carry the water away. That was one of the things that they didn't bother with in the original construction. Now we have a way of removing that water so that it won't damage the building again.
Mike, are there already plans for what the first onstage production will be in this space?
There are plans, but you're going to have to come back and chat with us, and we'll reveal it as soon as next season comes around.
We can't wait. Harry, Holly, and Mike, thanks to all three of you. Thanks for having me here and break a leg if that's appropriate in the construction business.
Well, it's certainly appropriate in the theater business.
That's a group of 3 people, Harry Gordon, Holly Wolf, and Mike Aguirre, all with something to say about the new Pendragon Theater, which is in progress. The construction is going on right now. You can see it and listen to it as you drive by Norrie's in Saranac Lake. Ethan Shanty back in the studio with us.
Mitch, were you ever in a play in high school or college or anything?
I was not in a play in high school. I was not in a play in college. I was, however, in a play in elementary school.
Ooh, did you play the tree?
No. Actually, I was in two musicals in elementary school. One was a musical based on the Muppet movie. It was 1980, man. Okay, but I was also.
Did you play Sam the Eagle? Who were you?
I was Zoot because I was a saxophone player.
Okay, good.
Homemade costume and everything. It was great.
Awesome.
However, the better part that I had was the part of Friedrich, one of the children in The Sound of Music.
Oh.
In which I got to sing the following line. Yodel-lady, yodel-lady, yodel-lay, hee-hoo.
You still got it. I can
yeah.
see why they cast you.
Interestingly, my girlfriend in 8th grade, people said that Janet and I were made for each other because she, too, was cast in the role of Friedrich in her elementary school's production because they didn't have enough boys in the play.
A match made in heaven.
Yeah.
I was on stage, I think, a couple of times in elementary school. The Pied Piper was one. I was just a background character, but I really leaned into it. And then when I was in 7th grade, I was in a production of Robin Hood, and I was cast as Friar Tuck, and I made this decision for my character that Friar Tuck would be especially rotund. And so
You're kind of method acting.
I was definitely method acting, and you'll believe me when I tell you that I wore this gigantic pajama suit that my mom had, and I stuffed it with pillows. So and then threw like the robe over top of it, and then had a fake beard on. So yeah, I am walking around looking like I'm like 4 times my size with this pajama suit.
Fat suit. That's impressive.
Yeah, and I was very proud of it. And it was about 150 degrees inside because you're on stage with the lights bearing down on you. And I tried to do this horrible, horrible British accent.
Hello, governor.
Right. Robin Hood, is it? Anyway.
And see, Mike and Gary wouldn't tell us what they're planning for the opening production in the new space next year. But if I see you buying a new set of pajamas, I'll know what they have planned.
You'll definitely know. Anyway, that was my crowning achievement on stage. And I realized that my younger brother was a much better actor than I was. So I retreated to stage crew, and he took it from there. He represented the Shaney family well on stage.
Ethan, roll credits.
Northwards is an NCPR podcast production. The show is written, produced, and edited by Mitch Tyke. Digital production supervision is by me. I'm Ethan Shanty. To find out more about this show, listen to past conversations, and to make a contribution, head to ncpr.org/northwards. This is NCPR, North Country Public Radio.
Cut. That's lunch, everybody.
You can't skip lunch.